Welcome to the DTF Printing Podcast. I'm Adrienne Palmer, Editor-in-Chief of DTF Printing. I'm here with Sean Kirkpatrick, owner of Print Hybrid in Lubbock, Texas. Today we're chatting about his recent DTF printing purchase, pairing it with other technology in-house, and what it's like to change your business name. Hey Sean, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. All right, why don't we kick it off with you telling us a little bit about Print Hybrid and how you got your start in the apparel decorating space?
Sure. So in about 2001, I started doing some artwork for a printer. I was working at a cable company, but I had taken some art classes and stuff. So I started separating artwork on sheets of paper with colors, and he would blow them up on his copy machine on a vellum, and registration was horrible, but it was fun. And I ended up just having a really good time and learning the industry just from kind of watching him print and everything. And then one day I kind of, how everybody gets into it, I think I could do this. And so got a little bit of money scraped together and got a 4-color press and started with a manual in April of 2003. So it will be almost 21 years in the business. And then it's just been a wild ride.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
What does Print Hybrid look like today?
Print Hybrid has changed a lot from a manual to, I think I manually squeegeed t-shirts for about 18 months and thought there's something better than this. And it was just when M&R started releasing the Sportsman, which was, 6-color automation. And they basically tailored it to smaller shops, made it affordable. And I got into that really quick and just saw my business skyrocket, and then moved into a bigger building, got a 10-color gauntlet, thought that I would never need more than 10 colors, moving from a 6-color. Within 6 months, figured out that was wrong, and I wish I had gotten an 18-color. And then what happened in 2018, I guess, in going with the 10-color, my customers started wanting simulated process. 10 colors, you can barely get that. If you're with one flash and wet on wet, you can almost do it. And so I started working on that and instantly found out that it was a pain setting up, and the colors and the color changing throughout the run. And just about that time is when M&R came out with the digital squeegee. Looked at it at a show, thought, golly, this thing's expensive. No way this will ever sell. It doesn't make sense. And then I started thinking about it a little bit harder and found out, okay, well, 3 screens, quick setups, no color changing, no moi, all the problems with simulated process went out the door. And I went to M&R and said, okay, this is what I want. And at the time, I think Adidas and, Fanatics and some of these really big shops, that was who was using them at the time. I think my machine is number 15. And, M&R said, well, wait a second, do you have the business for this? Do you I said, no, but I believe if you build it, they will come. And so they said, we'll sell you one. We'll help you put it in. We'll be your biggest cheerleader. And it went off. I was basically the poster child for putting one in a small to mid shop and making it work with customers that, was ordering 50 shirts or, 2,000 shirts. And so I've been really successful at that. During COVID, I pivoted more to a contract business where I didn't want to deal with smaller orders. It's nice to, print 300 shirts and have a 2% spoilage rate, and customers don't care because little Jimmy has his medium and it didn't get printed and he's so upset. But that's what led me into with this digital squeegee. Anytime digital happens, especially on this big 22 station press, head strike happens and there's 6 shirts go by before we take it off and we even know that. So, 6 shirts are messed up. You can't really fix digital prints like a plastisol print, touching it up with ink and stuff. So I've always had that problem where if we mess them up and it's over an overage rate, then we have to order shirts in and we have to reset up the job, and it's just a pain to do. DTG I've never really liked the whole DTG with the pre-spray and just how it feels and everything like that. So I've always been looking for a solution to be able to fix those little errors just in 1s and 2s and that kind of stuff like that. So when M&R released the Quattro in this fall, I really took a look at it and thought it was going to be the perfect machine to marry the two technologies of decorating apparel. And here we are.
Yeah, I was going to say the final bit, not the final bit of your journey. I'm sure there's much more to come, but your current part of your journey is that you recently installed the M&R Quattro DTF printer. So obviously this is the first time bringing DTF in-house. Before, were you just ordering transfers, doing, using heat presses, or what was kind of that setup before?
I've done a little bit of super colors to do some stuff, to experiment, a couple of DTFs here and there. But, being a contract printer, I'm large volume. I put it on my presses. It's just been more of an experimental thing. I've always been trying to put as much technology and automation with my shop as possible, I find that, the technology helps with a lot of headaches. So, DTF, I was brand new to it, but I've had success kind of just jumping in and being forced to make it work. And so here again, I was like, hey, I have no idea how to run a machine or what it is or any of those settings, but let's get it synced and I'll figure it out. And got it installed the first week of December, and we're getting the colors dialed in to match the digital squeegee. Instead of 4 heads, we're using 16 heads on the digital squeegee. There's different inks and CMYKs. There's different rips. So we're going in and, kind of building out some actions and some filters and stuff to get those things matching to where it's a comparable. The regular customer wouldn't be able to tell any difference. Hopefully, once I get that done, then my customers will see the value in that. Then along that, they said the same thing with the digital squeegee. Do you have the business for it? You got to get this thing running. It's not, the digital squeegee is just color. We don't have to deal with any white, which I've heard, in the DTG industry and everything, that white is the devil ink that, turns them into large, expensive paperweights on your desk. They said, you got to run this nonstop every day. So I started talking to my existing customers and said, hey, if I bring this in-house, would you have any need? And instantly found out most of my customers were also using that in-house for various and sundry things. And so they said, yeah, if you're putting it in and it's a really good product and you can get, good price point, then yeah, we'll definitely use you. So I already have a lot of business waiting for me to kind of get everything done. I was kind of waiting on Long Beach to happen. There's a couple things with rollers and that kind of stuff that I think I'm going to find in some software to make it a little bit easier. I'm just, throwing darts at the dartboard at this point, trying to figure things out. So the DTF Expo that's coming up, I'm really excited to talk to people who have done it for years and see exactly what they're doing and how they've got their processes down. This is the one part of the industry that I'm a newbie and I'm ready to learn. And I appreciate the DTF.com. I've watched all the podcasts and they've been really cool.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. And yeah, I'm really excited for DTF Expo because I think that you're able to talk to everyone who's in it, different vendors. You're going to learn, figure out what equipment you need, and just overall get a better idea of what's happening now in your shop and what is to come, I guess. And I guess maybe let's go a little bit back to bringing this in without really having any DTF experience. Is M&R helping you along the way, or is that something that you've brought on new staff members, or do you have people in-house that were able to be trained pretty quickly with the new technology?
Yeah, so when I started looking at DTF in this machine, and then I get on a bunch of Facebook pages, and that, those Facebook pages with 20,000 people go from people that I've converted little printers in their garage to full commercial. And what I found out was that a lot of presses are coming in and they've got Chinese manuals. There's no service support. People have no idea what they're doing or how to put these machines together, get them dialed in and registered, everything. It was really important. And this is one of the big reasons that I jumped in at this time, was that I knew that M&R would be able to service and support the machine. They took a machine shell and they made something like 48 different changes to it. And now they install it in there. It's a full week of install and training for several employees. We've got emails and phone numbers for the techs. And I've already said, I'll say to tech, hey, what about this? What about this? And instantly, everyone's talking together. So it was a huge thing. And I feel that it just kind of lets me jump past that learning curve, as far as, me being clueless to how to do it from the beginning to just running for 2 or 3 weeks and felt very comfortable with how the machines and the inks and the films, they're all working together real nice. And that's just because, there's a company that has done it previously with different print technologies, and now they're moving into the DTF environment.
You've mentioned M&R quite a few times just in the last, you said 21 years. So it seems like you're pretty brand loyal. How have those relationships helped your business helps with purchasing new technology? Is there a major benefit to maybe sticking with one brand?
Yeah, I mean, I can say I bleed blue. My first press was an Art Jennings, so it was blue, but it wasn't M&R. But then once I got my Sportsman and then invested in everything from multiple presses to screen rooms to folding machines, digital squeegee and the Quattro, it does help if when you're new to kind of pick a company, whichever company that you feel comfortable with or whatever, to stick with it. Because if you get a tech in-house and they're fixing this press, chances are they know how to fix this machine, or it's just a little bit easier to have your machine maintained at the same time. And it's funny, Ryan Barger, he's my sales rep in the Texas area for M&R. He was a technician. He installed my first Sportsman back in 2004, and then he moved up and out of that position into sales. And so I just tell everyone I boast on him all the time because he's the best. Because not only does he's talked to me out of purchasing several pieces of equipment. So, I'm like, oh, I need a new press. I've got so much to do and I don't have any. He's like, no, you don't need a new press. You need a better screen room so that you can dial in your screen and you CT, direct to screen and all this stuff like that. And he's been great. But then he also can, I call him up before I call tech support. Hey, I've got this problem. Do you know how to fix it? Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, do this and this. So I'm very lucky. All of us in Texas are very lucky to have him. But yeah, he's the brand loyalty has really paid off because I feel like, in every company, they're going to take those people that are kind of ambassadors for him, tried and proven. I with the digital squeegee, they instantly, were like, hey, you are a small company. You did this. Can we send some people to call you and everything? And so, I mean, for the first year and a half or 2 years, and I'm still getting calls, people that are interested in looking at putting in smaller shops. And, I'll tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, it's, everything that they have questions on, we'll spend 45 minutes and talk to them about. So I'm kind of eager to kind of jump into this new technology of DTF. And not that I'm an expert at all in it, but I'm hoping within the next couple months to be kind of an industry spokesperson for the Quattro machine, just having experience with it and kind of, learning the little intricacies of, how things run and tricks and tips of the trade.
Right. We love it when manufacturers are honest and are having those conversations with you instead of saying, oh yeah, you just need a new machine. I was maybe at a Shirt Lab event, and I think it was someone from M&R actually who kind of raised their hand and was like, why don't you just add a third shift? We were talking about, purchasing equipment, things like that. And they were just like, add a third shift. Do you have the capabilities to do that? Why add another machine when maybe it's just like moving some people around or doing something like that? So having those honest conversations, I think, are so, so important.
Yeah. And as business owners, we sometimes get this tunnel vision of like, oh, I have this problem. I need this as a solution. And then you have some of these industry professionals that have been forever and they've seen it with all these other shops. And so they're like, we've seen this. This isn't what you need. Or maybe let's have a different conversation and put a couple of different options on there. And it helps because I literally get tunnel vision. I'm like, I want it. I need it. This is the only thing that could ever happen. And then I find out, okay, well, maybe there's some other options and, I can make some more educated decisions.
So you mentioned kind of being a brand ambassador and helping out other shops. Do you feel as though in this industry that there are other shops who have been able to help you, especially when you were first starting out?
Well, it's funny with the digital squeegee, the bigger shops were the big ones. And I'd, hey, do you guys have, I couldn't even get into anybody. And so I started the digital squeegee Facebook page and, kind of did that. And kind of there was a hole and I kind of filled it and brought everybody to there. So I've kind of started out with the Quattro for owners only, new people that are in there. And then it'll probably within the year kind of open up and be something bigger. But yeah, I guess I kind of did it first, with that. And I'm trying to do it with this. And we have a couple of people in Texas even that purchased the machine this fall at this last trade show already. Like, hey, what are you guys doing with this? How what setting is this set at? What's your temperature? And so it really is nice when you have a community of like-minded, owners and operators that don't mind sharing the information. We're in a new age where, none of us have these industry secrets, let's share, let's help each other because, you may have this information now, but you're going to have a question later that somebody else is going to share. And, and so we're building that little community to where we don't have to bother M&R. They built a good piece of machinery. They've trained us on it. As long as it's working, they're like, you guys experiment with it and everything. We'll help you along the way. But, they're also, building machines for all over the world and doing all this other stuff. So, trying to get a hold of them right here in the instant is kind of hard, where you can go on, everyone's on Facebook or something. So you can kind of go on, ask a question, and within 5 minutes, somebody's like, oh yeah, I just do this or this or this. And so, it's really nice when, you build a little group of people that you can trust and you can kind of collaborate and talk about the machine and have a good conversation on just, what works, what isn't working, and, getting that done.
You mentioned Facebook, so I want to talk about it just for a second. For someone who is starting out, what are your tips for navigating this broad realm of Facebook groups and pages specifically for the apparel decorating space? Because there's so many different avenues you can go, so many different groups. Like, what would you suggest someone start with?
Yeah, and it's really hard because COVID changed kind of the group setting of Facebook. Everybody was online, everyone was doing stuff, everyone's trying to figure out what they were going to do. It's a podcast, just like, videos everywhere. You can find in that little, 18-month, 2-year period, there's a flood of information, and a lot of it's wrong. A lot of people are self-proclaimed, experts on it, and they're out there, and just because they have 22,000 people following them, other people think what they say is gold, and, a lot of it's wrong. So when me as a newbie in the DTF kind of got on some of these pages, I was like, oh man, they're, just seeing it beforehand and being in the industry and kind of knowing what to expect. I was like, holy, there's just a lot of information and a lot of, you'll go through one post that has 50 comments and there will be solutions and, 10 different solutions to it. And I could tell that, 8 of those were wrong, because then people would be laughing at it and stuff like that. So I think coming in as a newbie, you just really need to find a small group, come to the expo, come to trade shows, get involved with some people that have some experience, that are comfortable taking your text or your phone call and say, hey, I'm new, like, if you don't mind helping me or whatever, I can maybe help you with something else. There's huge 20,000 groups. They're just crazy. And I mean, and they span from everything from people printing on, inkjet printers with some white paper and this, the DTF, it's come a long way, but there's still this technology that not everyone can afford a $40,000-$50,000 piece of machinery, and so people are starting off, and that's how every business needs to start. But, there's just a lot to get through before you can kind of find the meat of the good information.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always overwhelmed when I get on Facebook. I actually created a Facebook for my previous gig specific to the screen printing space, because I wasn't on my personal one for years and years and years. And then I was like, well, I'm missing out on stuff. And so I created, like a professional account just to kind of see what was going on. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. How am I going to keep up with this? But I felt like I was missing out. But yeah, those are really good feedbacks and tips for people who are just hopping on and seeing what's out there for them and getting questions answered.
And also finding people with the same equipment. You get on those and you say, hey, I see a lot of them, the registration's off. Hey, how do you fix this? Well, there's probably 50 machines plus out there, and the way you fix that is different for every single one of them. So, if there's probably any good machines, they probably have smaller groups that, are sectioned off for that machine. And so I would just search a little bit down, dive down deeper to where you can get stuff with, 50 members in it, and those might, you might look at those on the outside and say, oh, that's not a very active group or whatever. But no, those are the ones that have that machine, that know it inside and out, and they're willing to help. And if you do a little bit of diving to find those people, they'll be that the help from that little community will be so much bigger than trying to just scroll through and search from these huge ones.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really good feedback. And then just meeting people at shows and connecting with people, if you're at the booth of wherever you purchase your machinery, talking to other customers, making those connections, then you can kind of get a better idea as to where are they hanging out on the internet for apparel decoration. Yeah. So, okay, let's get back a little bit to the Quattro. You've had it for a month or two so far. Overall, initial thoughts? I know you're kind of doing some color testing, you're syncing it up with a digital squeegee. Overall, like customer feedback, thoughts process?
Yeah. So we started doing printing, and I basically, the customers I had locally, I said, hey, send me some art. Like, I got a bunch of film and all stuff. I just want to send it. I want to get feedback from you guys. I'm trying to develop, I'm starting from scratch. So I'm trying to develop pricing. I'm trying to develop templates. I'm trying to develop all the information, so I got a bunch of my close customers, and I'm like, just send me a bunch of stuff. I'll just print it for free. All I want you to do is just test it on some samples. Tell me how it feels. Tell me how it appeals. Tell me, everything about it. Good, bad, ugly. Give me the feedback. And everybody feels it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this feels so nice. Oh, the colors are great, And so I really think that M&R knocked it out of the park. I know that they tried so many different films, so many different powders. They have proprietary white and colored inks and stuff like that. The RIP software is proprietary with Caldera, which is a big RIP in the industry. They're kind of like Apple, They let some people kind of dabble in it for a little bit, and they see something get big, and they're like, okay, well, let's put a really, really good piece of machinery out there that we can service and support. All of my customers, they were just like, yeah, this is gold. So like, when can we start working? Like, get us your price list and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't have the Long Beach next week, we'd probably start. But end of January, February, beginning of February, we'll start pumping it out. And it's really an easy machine. I haven't had any problems. We were gone for like 10 days or Christmas. I give everybody, the week off before Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's. And so we did everything that M&R told us to do to kind of, keep the heads wet and do all the stuff like that. Turned it on, did a couple head cleans, and we were running just the same. So that was really nice, because I've heard that, some of these machines, you don't use them for 2 or 3 days and you're replacing heads or having major issues. But yeah, I'm really happy with the feel. It's a hot, a warm, and a cold peel. So a lot of manufacturers, and we see it next week at Long Beach, the age of the carousels and these heat presses that are all automatic. And so, everybody's looking for a really quick press and a peel and that kind of stuff like that. And, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds on these with a press, moving more towards like the 6 and 7 seconds. So as far as if you really had some people with these carousels and they were dialed in, you could be doing some high volume numbers with heat pressing some shirts. And, the machine itself is 4-head, so it prints really fast at 22 inches wide. We're getting a lot of film pushing there. So I think it's really, it is a commercial, piece of machinery. So that's going to set it differently than a lot of companies need. But if, DTF is going where I believe it is this year, I think they'll be really successful in selling a lot of machines, because it just seems like it's a good product and can get people what they need.
Yeah, okay, so you said you weren't a huge fan of DTG, but it seems like you feel as though maybe DTF is not really, and I don't want to say a fad because DTG still exists, but like, how do you feel about the future of DTF now that you're in it, and now that you kind of worked with DTG, weren't really obsessed with that technology?
So I think DTG, it started coming out in like 2004. I flew to Arizona to Scott Fresner's shop. I saw some Russians. They were like bootlegging designs off the internet. They didn't speak any English, and they were printing shirts. And on white, I was super impressed. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. We're printing, beautiful prints with a printer. And then we started getting into black shirts and with the pre-treat and this, and and then I was like, oh yeah, that's not something I really want to get into. And I've just seen DTG over the years. The feeling is really nice on some not. It stretches and cracks and just a whole different issue. So I never ever in my business thought printing 1 or 2 shirts at a time. These onesies, which film and DTG do, the print on demand. But there's an issue with the digital squeegee where if we have a head strike and it sits on my 22 station striker, we go 5 or 6 shirts before the unloader sees that. And so, if there's some issues with that, digital isn't like plastisol where you can go in and touch this up. You've just ruined 6 shirts and then you fix it. So what I was having to do is set up the job again, the next day or so when I get like those 6 shirts in, stop major production just because I have to run 6 shirts and whatever. And so it's just been kind of an issue. I just think DTF and this machine is going to allow me to get those colors paired well enough to then I can just order the shirts and slap a DTF on it, and the customer most of these customers, with DTF being so big this year, most of these customers can probably go into their closet and find one of every 5 or 6 ways a shirt has been, decorated, whether it be, plastisol or vinyl or DTG or DTF or, all these different ways. And they don't really care about it. As long as it has a good feeling shirt and a design that they like on it, that they feel, represents them or whatever, they're not really looking at, is the registration on, or this color, the Pantone, or anything like that. I think us printers are our worst enemies because we nitpick these things so much. And it is, I always want to produce the best possible product out of my shop as possible, but it's almost to a detriment sometimes where I nitpick something so much where I can't see the forest through the trees that, hey, let's get this out and let the customer decide. And the digital squeegee we finally got really nice prints off of after a few months of testing over the last 6 years. And now the DTF, I really think it's going to be very well for shops. I'm finding some of my shops that I do contract work for, they're saying that they don't even like setting up plastisol prints for more than 4 colors because it's so easy to just get some DTF in, heat press, those 30 or 40 shirts and be done. You don't have to worry about cleaning and coating and, getting colors and setting up these prints. It takes longer to set up a 4-color, print with screens than it does to print it. I think DTF is going to allow a lot of shops to really get these small orders in and out a lot quicker. And as long as it's a good product and, they use the correct pressure and heat and the films are good, then, these customers are going to be happy with what they're finding on the shirt.
And it seems like your customers specifically, when you gave them some of the tests, were like, oh, yeah, this is great. They seem to be really happy with the final product.
Yeah, they were really surprised. They were like, yeah, we've been doing it. We've been getting it from here and here and here. They're like, yeah, when can we start ordering this? They were really happy with it. So me not knowing a lot of what everybody else is providing, I knew that I felt them everywhere, and I've kind of been like, well, it's all right. With the digital squeegee, it's water-based ink. And some people are just purists with the plastisol. They like that kind of rubbery, plasticky feeling, and depends on how much you're using or whatever. And transfers are different. Transfers, in the beginning, they felt like that printed vinyl, and it's real thick and, flat and shiny or plasticky feeling. And now these films and the adhesives and the inks are getting so much better with the stretch and everything that, they're starting to feel really, really good. To the fact that I think that a lot of customers are going to start preferring that, because a lot of shops, you've got mom and pop shop or a guy in his garage that is learning and printing everything on a 110 mesh, because that's what he saw on YouTube or whatever, to these shops that are printing 230, 300 LPI. And so there's a whole range of like what these shirts are doing. But I've gone and seen some really professional printed shirts, in the mall, and they don't even feel that great. But people are happy. People are buying them. Obviously, they're big brands. They've passed the smell test to get to these large stores, and people are selling them. So I think DTF, it feels good. The stretch is nice. The colors are nice. And I think that it's just going to set a new precedent of decorating this year, especially with some of the bigger companies, screen printing manufacturing companies investing in it. I know, I believe Rock's got one going. I know MHM has one, M&R. So finally, versus the digital company, printer companies kind of working their machines for the DTF industry, now you've got screen printing manufacturing actually building machines for it. So it kind of lends itself a little bit more to people understanding textiles, thread types, and bleeding and all that kind of those issues that we deal with as decorated apparel professionals. Now we've got the companies that have dealt with it with plastisol and water-based and all these other inks, and now we're bringing digital into it. And so they can kind of tweak these machines a little bit better, I feel, to work for what they're supposed to be doing.
For sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've had some conversations with some just industry vets who are tried and true screen printing manufacturers, and kind of their conversation with this is that it's going to take away dollars toward our screen printing equipment, instead of kind of looking at it as, well, this is an addition to a print shop. And as you mentioned, if you are a screen printing manufacturer, maybe then you could consider manufacturing some type of DTF equipment as well, and then having all of that for your customer base. But to me, it's an addition. And if it can be an addition to a print shop, why can't it be an addition to a manufacturer?
Sure. And I think that's what they decided. They said, okay, well, people are doing it. We have the capacity, it's the same rips and all that kind of stuff that they're using for M&R. And now if I have an issue with my, CTI for my screens, I just get a digital, tech in here, and now he can, troubleshoot different stuff and maintenance on my different equipment. And it's just kind of nice to have that redundancy of training and, expertise from the technicians. And I think really, I had a conversation with another printer yesterday, and he was talking about how these machines, and they range. You can get them from, Alibaba or AliExpress for $3,000 or $4,000. And granted, they come in these crates and the manual's Chinese and everything. But if you're a technically sound person, you could probably put these together for very little investment. You could probably be putting together a t-shirt line or developing DTFs for, local schools or whatever, like really having a legitimate business. And this printer was like, man, I wonder how shops are going to pivot, with everybody having access to this. And it's the exact same scenario as, all big shops before 2000, they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on 18 color presses, and they were the only ones that were allowed or were able to print, these large runs and everything. And then screen printing manufacturing companies built the Sportsman, a little 6-color, and it was $28,000. And it allowed shops like mine to say, oh, now I can get into automation and I can print a week's worth of jobs in a day and a half, and then I can pick up business and stuff. And, and all those big companies were like, why are you giving access to these little guys? And, and it was good for me now, but now I'm on the other end where now other people now have access to equipment that is good and can produce, really good prints, and they can start their businesses. And as long as you have a business mindset instead of a hobby mindset, then you can turn it into a business. And it's going to, existing shops are going to win on customer support and loyalty and the fact that they can probably afford, oh yeah, we botched this 1,000 shirt order and it's going to cost $3,000 to replace. Well, little Joey that's doing it out of his, shop or his garage or whatever may not be able to do that. And so, yep, that was the order. They're never going to go to there again. But, I stand behind my product. And so all of my customers know, hey, nobody's perfect. Mistakes get made. I'm thinking long term, what's $2,000 or $3,000? Let me redo this order, make it right. Hope that you see that and you'll trust me to give me your future business. And 9 times out of 10, that does happen versus the guy that says, oh, I really can't do that for you. You're kind of stuck with it. And that's where a lot of these little shops, because they just don't have the business mindset and customer service of just doing it for years and years, that's where they'll probably end up failing, and the whole cycle will start over again with the next kind of technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much more than just printing shirts. The customer service aspect is huge, and going that little extra mile or inch or anything to keep your customers coming back is so paramount. Do you have any tips for anyone who is maybe considering going into contract printing versus what they're doing currently?
So I went into contract printing because I was dealing with schools and churches and everything. And when you're ordering 70 shirts, and those were placed orders that you have to have every single one printed correctly, unless you have your shop 100% dialed in, you're going to have mistakes. And then when those mistakes happen, you've got to tear down the job and you've got to order shirts and you've got to set it back up to print 2 shirts to fulfill an order. It just started not making sense to me to do that. Luckily, I had customers along the way. They were building brands and I was growing with them. And so it was just kind of a beneficial spike up to say, hey, let's just move this over, move more into the contract printing, less to the general. I still print some for some people because I can't say no to, people that kind of got me where I am today. So they're lucky. And, I just tell my people, okay, everybody just make sure we're not messing any of these up. Let's do it really good. But for these bigger orders, when my average order is anywhere from 576 to 1152 is the average. And so we're setting it up and we're running it and then we're tearing it down, and throw the person at the end of the loader or the unloader at the press or the person at the end of the dryer, or we're doing folding. They're looking for anything that might be bad. And so we pull out any misprints or anything that might be damaged or whatever like that. And if it is under my overage rate, I mark it off, here it is. If it's a little bit over, I go to the customer and say, hey, we messed up 5 shirts when I only should have messed up 3. What do you want me to do? Most of the time they're like, oh yeah, just credit me for it, But if they're like, well, you really need those 5, or oh yeah, there was a little bit more, then yeah, we get to set it up again. So that's why I'm really excited about the DTF, in the fact that I think it's going to save me a lot of time and money and make that whole process more efficient in replacing some of those misprints. But getting into contract printing, you're not making as much per sure, because you're not taking the cost of, your blank t-shirt at $3 and saying, oh, I get to up it to $6 and then put, charges on top of that. So you're looking more of the quantity based versus what you're making an individual shirt. So not all shops are set up for it. And luckily I found my customer base. Probably 3/4 of my business is made up of 5 women's boutique brands. And so I treat them like queens and, give them what I call my boutique service. And they have a key to my door for the pickups on the weekends. They, can text me at 11 o'clock at night and I'm answering. So that's where I've kind of got that loyalty with them. And they know that I'm going to make everything right and be available all the time, because if they succeed, then I succeed. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So was that a little bit of the name change then from Integrities to Print Hybrid? Is that when that happened?
Yeah. So, when I started out, my business partner at the time, he was a youth minister. And, so we were like, okay, let's come up with a name. And we were doing a little play on words, and then integrity and t-shirts. Oh, let's stick them together. And so it was fun. And in fact, it was crazy. The name of the business was integrities.com and we wanted to make sure everyone knew we had a website, because I was so big back then. It was embarrassing. So that was 20 years and it was my baby. But, with the digital squeegee and now with the Quattro stuff, I really wanted to move more into a digital aspect of decorated apparel. It was a brand overhaul. I was trying to hit new future. My existing customers were happy because Integrities is hard to spell. I had to say integrity, drop the Y at EES.com. And it was always misspelled. So they're like, oh, Print Hybrid, that's easy. So they were happy. Future customers, it kind of shows a little bit more what my shop is centered for. And so it's easy. But changing the name of the business after 20 years is hard. Your passwords and your numbers and your credit cards and your accounting, everybody knows it. And so it took all of last year of me deciding, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change it. And you got to go to your county courthouse and you got to, send it to the comptroller and you got to do all this stuff. But then just over a year, you just start figuring out, oh, you log into this one distributor. Well, I got to let them know that I'm changing it, and you got to change your logins and get your everything off there. And so it was just, it was a pain. I wouldn't want to do it again. So I'm stuck with this one for another 20 years.
It's a good one. You picked good. At my former company, we simply removed the word the from the brand name. I was finding the word the in so many little things, like 5-7 years later. I'm like, I did not even know that this existed on the website or in our branding. We removed that so long ago and there it is again. And that's just, not even a complete name change. It was just a removal, like, Justin Timberlake says in The Social Network, remove the from Facebook. So that's what we did. A great change, but it's so funny when you really think about all the places that your name is and all the changes that you have to make. Well,
and with COVID and the digital squeegee and stuff, everybody knew Sean Kirkpatrick with Integrities. And so now, I normally wear a hat, a fedora stuff when I go to the convention. So people kind of sit and remember me from that, because I guess a lot of people don't wear those nowadays. So it's kind of noticeable. But now that I've kind of started going to conventions and stuff like that, I try to have, Print Hybrid somewhere on there and talk to it and everything, so that if they have any questions or whatever, they're not going to integrities.com anymore. And it does filter over, but, just trying to get that name out and the new name in, it just takes a while, because after 20 years, people just kind of, get that ingrained in their mind, and you just have to retrain them.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happened to me. We were talking back and forth over email, and then I was like, oh, I just need to, Google your shop and, come up with some better questions and whatever. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is Sean, with Integrities. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, it's just a name change or, a change in the brand. So I'm sure that happens often, but now you're on the DTF Printing podcast, and now everyone will know that you are Print Hybrid now. And you've got DTF in-house. You're doing all the right things.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Sean, this has been great. Before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to say about DTF printing or where you want print hybrid to go in the next few years?
So I'm really excited about the DTF. I know that it was big last year and the last year or so, but I think 2024, it's going to be the word with all the conventions, everything. I think where DTG was 5 or 6 years ago and you couldn't walk 5 steps without seeing something, I think it's really going to be this way of decorating. Depending where the economy goes or where the industry goes and how people are, smaller orders or people wanting variable data or anything like that. It's a technology that I personally think that it's a good time to jump into. I think that the equipment stuff and the service support is there now, and the inks are very ready and available. I know GSG is stocking it all, in Texas, and we can get that readily available. So maybe the headaches that were there 8 months ago, a year ago, they're being fixed, and it's going to be a success for a lot of companies. Print hybrid, we're just going to keep going, running and gunning. I didn't really start a business thinking that I was just going to be printing a bunch of women's brands, but these ladies have been good to me, and they've allowed me to, grow with them. So I'm happy, but I'm also, I'd love to be doing, other fun stuff. So any other big companies that, need some hybrid printing that's a little bit more than Plastisol. If you don't like seeing halftones, I'm your guy.
You heard it here first. That's great, Sean. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you not only at Impressions Long Beach, but at DTF Expo.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on the next episode of the DTF Printing Podcast. In the meantime, head to dtfprinting.com to discover new ways to grow your print business. Thanks for listening.